Oh, Vidcon 2016. Hey guys, it's Sierra and you are back here for another Siera Sunday. So today we're going to be talking about our summer experiences and stuff that all of us have gone through this summer. But for me personally, I'm just going to talk about one event, and that is Vidcon. As many of you know, I attended Vidcon this year with my sister, so prepare for this journey. So this was my first year attending Vidcon, and honestly, I did not expect it to go the way it did. I actually didn't really know what to expect. Bear with me, this is a lot of stuff. I had to physically write it down on my notepad because I just get so excited talking about it. So I'm just gonna go day by day and explain what happened each day. So let's get started. So day one, I actually drove out the day before VidCon started because I wanted to be in California. I come from Nevada, so it's quite a long drive, and I didn't want to be rushing in the car and inevitably crashing it and killing me and Haley. I drove out the day before it started, which was the 22nd of June, and I went to the registration at the convention center, and that was pretty fun. Yeah, it was about a 6-hour drive from Vegas to Anaheim, and I may have been going maybe 90 all the way there, and I may have only stopped once, but nonetheless, I made it there. And then I actually got to the convention center. Now, let me tell you, this trip was a lot of frustration and anxiety, and the moment where I had to go register was one of them. I've never driven in Anaheim, so that was terrifying, first of all. The convention center is right next to Angel Stadium, Disneyland, and a music venue called The Grove. So there's so much going on in that one little corner of Anaheim, and let me tell you, nothing in Orange County is free. You have to literally pay for everything. And so registration takes about 10 minutes to go through, and then you just leave and go on with your life. So I finally got to Anaheim, and I was so tired from being in the car for 6 hours straight, and I was just super done with everything. And I came up to this parking garage so I could get out of the car and stretch my legs and just be free, but no. I asked the lady, hey, where's free parking? Sorry, there's no free parking anywhere. You'll get towed if you try to park somewhere for free. Great. So I paid $15 to park for 10 minutes, which really made me mad because I literally planned out every single detail of this trip and planned out every single dollar that I was gonna spend, and that was not part of the plan. But yeah, registration was pretty fast. I'm glad that I went to go register the day before because the lines the next day were insane, and I was not about that. So after that, I just left and went to go stay with my grandparents in San Clemente, so that was fun. Not really an exciting first day. So day two. This is when the real stuff started. So it first began by leaving my grandparents' house at about 7 o'clock in the morning. They live 20 minutes from Anaheim. So Haley and I were staying at one of the travel lodges that was literally right around the corner from the convention center. And our check-in wasn't until 3, but they told us that we could leave our car there so that I wouldn't have to pay the ridiculous parking again at the convention center. So we dropped off our car and walked to the convention center, and it was so, I felt like every emotion when I finally saw it. It was just intimidating and awesome at the same time. there was a line to get in that literally wrapped around the building twice. And luckily Haley and I got there just in time. Haley and I were smart and we made an agenda of all the events that we really wanted to go to that day. So our first thing that we wanted to go to was an interview, which was Marcus Butler. You guys probably know who he is. He's freaking awesome. And we were like one of the first people to get there, so we ended up getting second row closest to the stage, which was awesome because this is my first time seeing YouTubers since I started watching them when I was 14. I'm 19 years old now, so that was such a cool experience. And let me tell you, I am not a very confident person when it comes to putting myself out there and talking to new people. It was a Q&A session, which means that there's an interviewer on stage who talks for like 5 minutes, and then he calls out random people from the crowd to come up and ask him questions. And at first, no one raised their hand, but for some reason in my brain, I was like, hey, I'm gonna raise my hand. That's a good idea. What happens? I make eye contact with the interviewer and he picks me. At this moment, I was absolutely freaking out. I didn't think that it was real, and I was walking up with like shaky legs up to the microphone, but I ended up asking him a question and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, we kept eye contact for a solid 3 minutes. He gave me this super deep, meaningful answer, and it was just so cool. One of my favorite moments from the interview was when he asked 2 girls to come up on stage and sing with him, and they all sang Love Yourself by Justin Bieber, so here's a clip of that.
Yeah. Alright. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. 'Cause if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself. And if you think that I'm still holding on to something, you should go and love yourself. Wow.
After the interview was over, one of my best friends who I had been talking to on Tumblr for like a month, she was there, and we finally met in person for the first time, and it was so awesome. We had like this super emotional, like one of those stereotypical running to each other in slow motion and like just embracing each other. It was so cool. Ashley, if you're watching, I freaking love you. You're awesome. And it was really fun meeting you. So then after that, we went to go watch a few panels together. It was Living Not Too Deep, I think. It's a series that Louise, or Sprinkle of Glitter, and Grace Helbig do every year at Vidcon, and it was just so funny. She is so cool, and I knew I picked the right person to look up to on YouTube because she just like fully understands like not everyone is perfect and you don't have to be perfect. So that was awesome. And we went back like a couple hours later to go watch another Q&A session. That was Joey Graceffa. He was promoting his new YouTube Red series called Escape the Night. I'm sure most of you have seen at least the first episode. It's super good, and I really want to get YouTube Red now because the first episode was so cool. I love weird, like, horror themed kind of shows like that, so yeah, that was cool. After that, we waited at that same stage because at Vidcon you can sit at a stage all day and they don't make you leave the room. So you can, as people leave, you can keep making your way up to the front. So we waited a couple hours, sat through some panels so that we could be front row for Louise's second panel that day. And my sister actually got to go up and ask her a question, and she was real sassy, but it was so cool. Like, she's just an awesome person. So it was about 6 o'clock and Haley and I went to go check into our hotel. So remember how I said this trip was full of anxiety? Checking into the hotel was the most traumatic part of my trip. I had been saving up money for months leading up to this trip. I had all the appropriate money in my account and everything, because I'm coming from another state. So if I have something wrong with my bank account, then I'm screwed because I have nowhere to go. So I went to go check in. Now, I don't know if any of you have checked into a hotel before. It usually takes about 10-15 minutes for them to get everything together, right? Well, at the Travelodge Anaheim, it takes an hour to check in because I went to go hand her my card so that she could run the deposit. And what does she tell me? Hey, excuse me, ma'am, your card's being declined. I freaked out at that moment. I didn't know what to do. This was my first time staying at a hotel by myself. And I was just like frantically calling my mom, who was at home in Vegas at the time. And on one end she had me, and then she had to get my dad's phone and call our bank. And then I had to talk to my banker through speakerphone because that's all I could do at that point. So after about 20 minutes of arguing with the banker, she was telling me that it was something that the hotel was doing wrong. So I marched myself back into the front desk office and I had to fight the lady to run my card again. And I told her, my banker is telling me that you are doing something wrong. And come to find out, she just entered in my expiration date wrong on the computer, so it wasn't going through. At that point in the day, I was so overwhelmed by the first day of Vidcon, and it was hot, and I was sweaty and tired. So Haley and I had to take a very short break from Vidcon, and we went and got dinner, stayed in our hotel room, and just chilled out for a little bit. So after I finally calmed down, we ended the night by going to see a movie that they were holding at Vidcon. Every night they were doing a movie premiere of a movie that's coming out this summer. So the first night was the movie Lights Out. If any of you are thinking about going and seeing it, please go see it. I know it's a scary movie and some of you may not like it, but if you like movies that have like a hidden deeper meaning, go see it because it's so good. So day 3, the second day of the actual convention, that was like our most chill day that we had. We didn't really do a whole lot. Most of the stuff that we did was just stuff that Haley kind of wanted to do. So we got up at around maybe 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and we got our butts in line at the convention center. At the main stage, there was going to be a panel about mental health, and Haley wanted to go watch it because one of her favorite YouTubers, Megan Rinks, is on it. So I accompanied her there, and this specific part of the day is actually very funny to me when I look back on it, because even though we hadn't all met in our group, Tia was 2 rows in front of me, and I met Brooke on that day. And at Vidcon I met a lot of people, and I just never saw their faces again because there's like, what, 20,000 people there. So I met Brooke the day before we all actually like met together in a group, so that's like what freaks me out the most. But the mental health panel was super cool. It was about an hour long. That's how long all the panels pretty much were. So that was really fun. I thought the topics that they talked about were really interesting and things that really need to be talked about. So then for the next few hours, we're just kind of spent walking around the expo halls. And going back to the anxiety, the expo halls were the most insane thing in the world. it was just people walking in every direction. There was no order to it whatsoever. But a lot of the booths were really cool. I got a few free things. Yeah. So then we didn't really do much for the rest of the day and try to get front row for Jim's interview, which we ended up doing. And it was really fun. Like, all of the interviews were so much fun. I think that was honestly one of my favorite parts, was just all the interviews I got to go watch, because I've been watching so many of these people for years and years, and it was just so nice to sit and watch them talk. So that was cool. I didn't really do much that night. We kind of just walked around the convention center, met a few random people. It was mostly people that Haley knew, so yeah, that was pretty much the end of day 3. Oh, day 3. Now, day 3 was the most stressful, the most awesome, and the most just confusing day of the whole convention. It was the last day of Vidcon. Now, like I said, I convinced Haley to go and wait all day in the main stage hall. Now, I was determined to be in one of the first rows for that panel. And in my tired, delirious, VidCon-filled mind, I told Haley that we should wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. And sure enough, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I drove to the convention center at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I waited in line from 5 to 8 o'clock in the morning. I know my sister wanted to kill me, and bless her soul for being so patient with me. But that morning was where the best thing in the world happened. My sister and I got there, and there was already a line forming, right? But it was only about like 5-10 people in line. And sure enough, I sit behind these 3 girls in line. Now, for the first hour, I was super tired, so I just plugged in my headphones and ignored everyone. But Haley, being the little social butterfly, started talking to everyone. And she tapped me on the shoulder and she's like, "Hey, this girl's going to the Marcus meet and greet later this afternoon, so we should all like stick together." And I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this conversation. So I turned to face them, and that is where I met Bailey, Bree, and Christina for the first time. And shortly after that, I see another girl behind me, and I was like, "Hey, I recognize you from the panel yesterday." And that was Tia. And within an hour, all of us just started talking and bonding, and then it just kept escalating to new levels. And sure enough, we all suddenly made a pact, because we were all there for the same reason. We wanted to get front row for Dan and Phil's panel. We made a pact that when they open the doors, we're all gonna walk to the expo hall and just start running. And I mean running. Like, run for your life. A murderer is chasing you, running. And whoever gets to the front row first is gonna save chairs for the people who get there last. So, with that in mind, we had security guards that were like making us walk behind them, like behind their arms, and we were all like kind of pushing them in a way. And as soon as our foot touched the expo hall, we all started sprinting. Now, I don't exercise, I don't run, I have asthma, but I swear I have never run so fast in my life. And as I would pass the security guard and they would tell me to stop running, that made me run more. And it was just so amazing. And I forget who got there first, but whoever did basically did a swan dive over the front row of seats, and we all just like got front row. So we got there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the panel didn't start until 3:30. So we all just bonded over the 6 hours that we were there. And it was so awesome. Like, I just met these people, but we already were acting like we had known each other for years. So 3:30 finally came around, and it was the most exciting moment of my life. Felt like I couldn't feel anything in my body, but yeah, I was feeling everything at the same time. I was literally front row watching Dan, Phil, and Marcus just walk in front of me, and luckily we picked seats where all three of those boys were like right in front of us, perfect view. So the panel was going really great. There was a lot of screaming echoing throughout the whole room, so it was kind of hard to hear at times, but you eventually got used to it and it wasn't that hard to follow along. The first thing that happened was we were screaming at Marcus for some reason, like just waving at him and stuff, and he kept looking at us like the whole time. The best moment happened when Bree and Haley decided to do their thing. I sat in between those two the whole time, and we all said that we were gonna shout something at Dan and Phil. So it was super hard to find an appropriate time to shout something at them because we didn't want to say something while another YouTuber was talking or even while the interviewer was talking because it was rude, yet we didn't want to say it when everyone else was screaming because then they wouldn't hear us. So at the end of the show, like 10 minutes before it ended, Haley and Bree decided that they were going to scream at Dan, which he was right in front of us, right? So for some reason in their minds, the thing that they came up with was Dan is a meme. Sure enough, they screamed that. The room is silent for a minute, and then Dan looks at us and then points. I was still in his general direction, like he acknowledged my existence. What? Like, that's what everyone dreams happens, and that just happened to me. And to make it even better, there's pictures of it and videos of it on YouTube. So then the anxiety didn't stop after that, because half an hour after the panel ended, Bree, Haley, and I all had to run to the meet and greet hall to go get in line to meet Marcus. And the only thing that was stopping me from like panicking was the fact that Marcus had to run too. So I figured he was gonna be as late as we were. But as soon as we got there, I so thought that I was gonna feel way more nervous than I actually did when I met him. But it was actually such a lovely experience meeting him.